You're obviously trying to make a massive change here. So you're going into talking to governments around taking voting, one, online, and then two, bringing this whole new technology and educating them around blockchain. How did you find that approach being a startup, trying to make this massive change? Because we're not talking about a startup that's trying to make a little impact here. One that's trying to deliver significant change across the globe in the way we perceive how we vote and how we actually do run democracy.
And using a technology that most people think is a fad or a bubble and not have a real use.
Look, immensely challenging is the short answer. Look, I think in many ways, we were the first. We were leading edge with this idea. So, the common phrase about timing is everything in startup land.
Yeah.
Look, arguably, I think when I started that journey 4 or 5 years ago, it was too early. And that was reflected in many conversations. I mean, look, government moves really slow by default. And so when you take really slow-moving institutions and you want to push them into innovation with technology which is either not understood whatsoever yet or maybe doesn't have the appropriate amount of testing and DD completed from their perspective, thinking about their risk, what they take on by adopting certain new technologies, and then thinking through the behaviour change for the constituency. There is a whole lot of factors there which are just real tough. Like they're things that which you're talking about a journey which probably needs to take decades rather than just a few years before it becomes well and truly a reality in all of the places you want it to. So, I'm a firm believer that this kind of technology will be used precisely for those purposes, but we won't see, large national elections using it probably still for another 5 to 10 years, I'd say.
Okay.
I'd say could be even more potentially.
It's an interesting conversation. So, and I think it alludes to the fact of if you're a non-tech looking to build some technology, understand what challenges you might have in the market, trying to make an impact like you were, I think, understanding what the regulation is, what the type of people you're dealing with is, and understanding the industry. How did you go about that? Was the thinking just the tech's that great and the idea's that great, we'll be able to do this? What was the initial thinking behind it?
Well, look, I go into all of these ideas understanding that they might just fall over. They might not work, right? It could be the greatest idea. The technology could be the best. And sometimes it just doesn't work. Timing is probably the biggest factor there. I think it's Mark Andreessen, creator of Netflix, who famously said that every idea that failed during the .com boom and bust would now work. It's always a matter of timing, and so I go into these projects understanding that I'm going to try and take a stab at something which I obviously believe is viable, and we can make this fly, it can succeed. But you've got to go in also appreciative that it might just not work. And so, look, I mean, in respect to co-founders who are non-technical, I think you're right. It's usually a benefit rather than a detriment, but you've got to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward and doing the best possible job at communicating and educating and hand-holding. Sometimes this can be a little bit frustrating, but more often than not, they bring essential skills to the table which a technical co-founder or even a user experience and design co-founder might not. So those complementary skills are really critical. I generally have a rule of thumb that in most startups, you want a gun designer, a gun developer / programmer. You need basically a gun sort of BD.
Someone that you can talk the talk.
That's right. Those are really the three essential things. You need the guys that can build the thing, and you need the guy that can take it to market. And very, very quickly after that, you'll start to look at what is very specifically, marketing muscle and this sort of stuff, right?